We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day's going well. As you're listening to this is Sunday, actually recording it Friday night. We had Ed on yesterday. That was a welcome sight for sore eyes. Always like to have Ed back. He's got some great insights. He's the elder statesman, if you will, and he teaches me and I think all of us a lot of things based on history and just his vast knowledge of what's happening in government by virtue of being around for as long as he has. Anyway, this particular show, we aren't going to have a guest. I didn't run around looking for a guest. Nobody reached out to me. I'm not going to do a live because I've done a few lives. So I'm going to do one of those particular podcasts where it's just me. For better or worse, warts and all, it's just me. And we're going to cover some of the text. Now, I put out a number so people can text me questions and comments and those sorts of things. And actually, a lot of people are doing that. So I want to continue that. And if you have a question or comment and you want it on the show, all you have to do is send a text to 952-522-1399. That's 952-522-1399. I'll give that out at the end of the show so you can write it down if you missed it there. So we're going to cover the texts that have come in since last time we checked, and we'll talk about some of the news stories, some genuinely fucked up shit going on, weird shit, funny shit, maybe even some terrifying shit. But we'll get through this all. We can finally see that what's going on with Donald Trump and the Republicans is they are certainly spiraling, and they're not doing well. They're losing every time they turn around. So this is a good sign. It's going to get messy between now and the crash, but when the crash comes, hopefully it's sooner than later. All right, let's check out some of the text messages that we got in. This one, I think, is referring to Donald Trump pardoning Henry Cuellar, the representative, the Democratic representative. He pardoned him, hoping that he might switch to the Republican Party. He decided not to, and Donald Trump got all butthurt because he figured this would be a way he could gain a House seat. Henry Cuellar isn't going to get reelected in 2026, not as big a criminal as he is. You can pardon that motherfucker, but everybody knows who he is and what he did. All right, here goes the text message. Here Trump goes grifting another election. This will only result in a stalemate unless the Democrat pretends to run as a Dem, then flips to MAGA after the election using Dem votes to throw the election. Now how Trumpian, just like former West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, just another Republican in Democratic clothing. No respectable Dem will knowingly vote for a dirty criminal Democrat anyway. We hold our own accountable, contrary to MAGA propaganda. And as a testament to that, Robert Menendez, he's in jail for being a grifting motherfucker, doing basically what Henry Cuellar did. I have a feeling that Henry Cuellar will get primaried in the Democratic Party, and he won't be the nominee. Maybe he'll jump over and be the Republican, but I don't think he's got Donnie on his side anymore after he kind of backstabbed Donald Trump. Now, I don't even know if Henry Cuellar realized that that's what Donald Trump expected out of him. But Donald Trump expects any kind of favor he does, he is transactional. So he expects something in return. And in this instance, he got jack in return. But Donald Trump's power is starting to dwindle. He's weakening. I don't think people are afraid of him anymore, at least as much as they were. So that's good news. All right, I got this other one, and I'm going to tell you when you're sending me the text, please put your name at the bottom of the text so I know who to attribute that to. Male, female, name. It's helpful. Just remember to do that because all I have here is a phone number where you texted it from, and I'm certainly not going to give that out. This person sent me a meme, basically, and it says this. In essence, emergency decisions are not the final word on the legal merits of a case, and the issues can be and often are revisited with a more comprehensive review. That's correct. And that's the other thing we've talked about with Donald Trump. Everybody sees all the things he's done, but understand he's done all these things with executive orders, which means they're very easy to undo. When we get a Democratic president in 2028, all they have to do is sign a few things and all that shit is gone. Donald Trump's too lazy to run it through Congress and get it in there solidly. He'll just do these executive orders because, of course, he's the king. And it doesn't last very long because when somebody of a reasonable mind comes in, they just shut that shit down. And this person said SCOTUS needs a revamp. Yeah, you think? Me and Ed and I were talking about that, about the revamp, and Ed is adamant about doing something with the Supreme Court. And I agree with him. You know, we have three branches of government, and if one branch is tainted or not effective or not legitimate, and the Supreme Court at this point is not legitimate, then we have the democratic way of this country weakened. We got to have all three branches. They've all got to be strong and they've all got to be trusted. That's not the case with the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, in the current government, we have three branches that are untrustworthy, that are not legit. We have the executive, we have the judicial, and we have the legislative branches. They're all compromised by Donald Trump and Republicans. So we're in a bad way right now. If somebody said, are we in a democracy still? Yeah, I guess we are. But we're hanging by a thread at this point because Donald Trump and the Republicans are doing everything they can to get us away from being a democracy. We're not dead yet, and we won't die. We will get through this. But once everything is settled, we have to make sure all branches are solid and legitimate. All right. This person sent me, okay, this one's interesting. They sent me a picture of a news article that says exclusive, U.S. threatens new ICC sanctions unless court pledges not to prosecute Trump. It says, hi, Mike, in case you haven't seen this article, I'm sending it along. Looks to me like the orange buffoon is really worried about what is in his future. Now, what he's talking about there is the ICC, the International Criminal Court, has been looking at the possibility of investigating and maybe prosecuting Donald Trump. Now, here's the thing. Even if they did all that and they convicted him, it really doesn't do much good because the United States doesn't recognize the ICC. However, what it does do is if he finds himself in some country that does recognize the ICC, he's got a real problem. Now, the ICC has convicted Vladimir Putin and Benjamin Netanyahu, and they are in those situations. They can only go to certain countries. Otherwise, they're at risk from being captured and jailed. So Donald Trump is kind of nervous about this thing, and he's gotten a little cocky about it, too. He claims he's going to put on sanctions on the ICC if they don't promise not to prosecute him. Well, they aren't going to do that. And what kind of sanctions can a president put on the International Criminal Court? I don't understand that. But he's nervous about it, and he's pushing it. And then while he was at it, he said, yeah, and I don't want you to prosecute Benjamin Netanyahu or Vladimir Putin, too. I mean, this whole thing is just fucking ridiculous and silly. They aren't listening to shit about him. But it does show, as the texter suggests, he's fucking nervous. Donald Trump is very nervous on all angles, internationally, domestically, financially. He's got a lot of problems hanging over his head, and this is when narcissists typically crumble. We're looking at the beginning stages of Donald Trump crumbling, and it's going to be a wonderful thing to watch. I am so anxious about that prospect. All right, we have another text message. Dan from Indiana. The U.S. Coast Guard is now apparently committing high seas piracy, taking control of Venezuelan oil tankers. Funny, I don't remember this being a campaign promise. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, you know, when I heard this, that they seized a tanker, I thought the same thing. What does that have to do with drugs? Donald Trump is doing everything he can to try to pressure Maduro, the leader of Venezuela, to just resign and take off. He wants him out of there because he wants somebody that's more compliant with him, pliable for him, so that they can do something with regards to oil. I don't care what anybody says. That's exactly what it is. So he's bombing boats, fishing boats in the Caribbean. He's sending big Navy um, aircraft carriers and boats down to Venezuela to try to intimidate. Um, and now he's grabbing a tanker, an oil tanker. What that has to do with anything, I don't know. He keeps suggesting that he may put boots on the ground, or at least bombing on the ground in Venezuela. He's really trying to intimidate this Maduro. And Maduro's basically saying, fuck off, you orange piece of shit. He's not afraid of him. Now, I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but that's how it's going. And Donald Trump is big on intimidation. He isn't always too great on backing things up. So we'll see what he does with this situation. But that whole situation could be very problematic, not only for Venezuela, but for this country and certainly the Republican Party. He also goes on to say, Santos Claus. Are you fucking kidding me? That piece of shit sure has the nerve. It is funny that Boebert's buddies got blocked at the door, but the assholes will stop at nothing to show us how disgusting they are. Now, I'm guessing you're talking about George Santos. You got to give me a little more context about what you're talking about. I talk about a lot of things. I do a lot of TikToks, and I'm 65 years old, so I don't remember everything. Give me some context or what you're talking about. But you're right about Boebert. Boebert is a piece of shit. Even though she's been pushing back against Donald Trump, she is still a piece of shit. So is George Santos. Let's see here. All right. Good morning. I just want to thank you for what you do. I listen to you and trust your info like I once trusted the news. I miss catching your lives, but have long work days and now teach groups at a community center. Helping my little corner of this red county is my way of resistance, along with being more careful of where I spend. LOL. And that's all we can do. Everybody says, what can we do? I couldn't do enough to make a difference. You do what you can do. You do as much as you can do. I mean, look at me. I'm not out on the streets. I'm not running for office. I sit behind a microphone and I talk about this shit every day, all day. That's what I can do. So that's what I'm going to do. And regardless of what you're capable of doing, whether it's just talking to other people about it, it doesn't matter. As long as everybody's doing something, we're going to win this thing. This writer goes on, I also wanted to mention you restored my hope in white men. For over a year, I had a nasty, unsolicited interaction with an older white man in my county. It got so hard that my husband and son do not like my daughter, and I'm going out alone much. I began to not trust white men in particularly simply because of their skin tone. I was taught to not be that way, so it bothered me, and then I found you on, and you helped me realize that although our country is really cruel and mean right now, it's not all of you. Thank you for being you and restoring my faith in others. T. Helene on the internet. And the way I answered her, I said, I understand your concern. There's good reason to hold that belief. There are a lot of white motherfuckers out there that are stupid and evil. But it's not everyone, of course. There are more good white men than bad. And I pointed out, look at the numbers of followers I have on TikTok. I have almost 500,000 followers. Many of those people are older white men like me. There are some. The problem is the assholes, the evil ones, tend to be the loudest. They tend to stick their nose in other people's situations, and this is why they seem more prevalent. But the fact of the matter is, there aren't huge numbers. It's like Trump-a-fucks. They talk like they're a big crowd. They talk like they're the majority, but they're not. They're the obnoxious minority, and they're becoming more and more of a minority. I understand what you're suggesting, though. I mean, I get it myself. Being an old white man, I have occasion to talk to other old white men, and you're right. Many of them are fucked up and stupid. They have wrong ideas about the way life should be, or how women should be treated, or how people of color or LGBTQ folks should be treated. I don't know where that comes from. I grew up in the same era. I even had a racist dad. Thankfully, I had a good mom, and it balanced out. And I saw which one was right and which one was wrong. But it is tough out there, you know. And the fact of the matter is, with Donald Trump in office, actually, even when he wasn't in office, he created a climate in this country that is more adversarial. If someone disagrees with you, it's almost always a fight, unless you're bigger, stronger, or just in their face. So you get a lot of this adversarial stuff. Everybody thinks they're right. And as I was talking to Ed about this, I said, people will come to me and say, "You think you're smarter than everybody." And the fact is, I know I'm not smarter than everybody, but I do know I'm smarter than 49% of this country at the very least, because 49% of this country voted for Donald Trump. And there's only two reasons why you would vote for Donald Trump after all that's gone on. You're stupid or you're evil. And honestly, I like to take the positive side of things, the glass half full. So I'm not going to suggest you're evil. I'm just going to say you're stupid. And that's essentially what it is. Okay. What else we got here? Oh, this was something I talked about when I was dealing with Ed. This one comes from Cheryl and her brother Steve. Hi, Mike. Did you receive the Christmas cookies yet that Steve sent? I received mine yesterday when I got home from work. I couldn't wait to have some for dessert. They were so good. Hope you enjoy them. Happy holidays, Cheryl Lynn. And Cheryl, I forgot where Steve is, but Cheryl's in Hawaii, and I apologize for that. Yes, I did get the cookies, and I appreciate that immensely. There's two things I like about Christmas cookies, and this this particular package that Steve sent had both qualities. First of all, they got to taste awesome, and they do. And secondly, there's got to be a fucking lot of them. And there was a lot of them. So, Steve, thank you very much. I know he baked them himself, so that's impressive. I could never do that. I just want to let people know, too, sending me stuff isn't necessary. I don't ask for you to send me stuff, and I'm not, I mean, I appreciate it, but I don't want you to come out of pocket for anything. I will never be on Patreon. I will never charge you to do anything on Substack or anything like that. So if you're on Substack and they say, "Hey, why don't you pay Mike some money?" Don't do it. I don't want to get money from my viewers or listeners. That's not what I'm interested in. But in addition, in addition to those cookies, Steve sent something else. Now, you know, I talk about my grandkids on the show quite frequently, and Steve sent a Christmas card for each one of them and put a $10 bill in them. Absolutely unnecessary. But Steve, thank you for that. That was very sweet of you to do that, and I'm going to make sure they get it. The 6-month-old, I don't know that he has anything really on his plate that he needs to buy, but we'll put it in his account that we started for him for the future. The 5-year-old, I don't know. I'm thinking Barbies or suckers or a combination both of both. All right, the next one. Wow. This is okay, let's see. This was a long one and some of it came earlier, or maybe it didn't. This was a very long one. Um, let's see if I can get through this. Good morning, Mike. Thank you for reading my jargon. Hopefully, it would help somebody regarding my mandatory 1-year service. Oh, yeah. He suggested that people should have to have a mandatory 1-year service. If you noticed, I mentioned military or civilian service. It gives a young person a choice to do a military a year or service, or if they chose a year of civil service, helping the elderly like they do in Germany. So, yeah, some sort of service. Having explained that part, let's get into the mandatory parts. He gave me a list of what the next Democrat, maybe progressive Democrat, should do in order to get things moving once they get in control. I believe due to generational change, our younger generation has gone soft and unaware Also, since the government buys lunch through schools and free school up to 4 years of college, thanks to the taxpayers' money. So why not require this generation to give a year of service to this country that is helping you? Mike, this raises citizenship participation and giving back and also learning some valuable life lessons. Please look at the results of this type of citizenry in most civilized countries. Also, there is always other also, if we expect to create a new, more educated and aware and more involved citizens and leaders, then let's ask the citizens to give back. A progressive candidate that is serious about standing on a solid platform should ask for this mandatory service. Boy, you're working hard on this one. You want this one, and you're trying to change my mind on it. Also, too, I'm willing to bet you $1 that if we explain this 1 year service to people and put it up for a vote, that it will be voted in. Don't believe me, Mike? I dare you to explain it like it mentioned to your tribe and take a vote. I'll win. Then I give the address to send me the buck. Mike, Mike, I believe it is time to start saying, what can we do for our country? We need a candidate who can run and fix the land, not their bank account. We need a candidate who explains to folks how much repair we have to do in this country. And we need every swinging salami to grab a shovel or hammer or pen or a rifle to help out. I thought of a way a candidate can address this issue. Let's say I'm a candidate and you ask me, why mandatory service? My answer, as a candidate, I'm proposing the country provide free lunch, free school lunch, free college or trade school. So the country is investing in you. So in return for 1 year, the country asks you to give back, either join the military or civilian service. Your choice. A real candidate should invoke pride of citizenship in our people. Please explain it in that fashion to your tribe. I'm reading what you're saying, dude, and ask for a vote. I'm going to frame that $1 I get. As a retired carpenter, I've watched generational changes. Our younger generation and softness has set it to do to the parental helicoptering. So at some point, a bit of values are a good thing to learn. Okay. I'm still not in favor of a mandatory service because I'll tell you why. And I'm not saying never. I'm just saying not right now. Because what we've gone through in the last couple of decades, we've had the government taking from us money, putting us in debt, putting us in peril. Now, if you tell me I should give another year of my life to the government, I'm going to bucket that up until the time they do something in return. I'm all for paying back and patriotism and all that stuff. But you're going to ask a bunch of people that have gotten their ass kicked, gotten their health care taken away, prices raising to the point where they can't afford things. You got people losing jobs because of what the government has done. People getting buried in debt for their student loans. If you guys want to vote on it, send it to the text. Say, yeah, I think they should do a year of service or they shouldn't. But here's the deal. At this point, I don't trust the government. I don't trust them to give me something in return for something. I'm not giving it to them first. Put it that way. I'm not giving it to them first. If it sounds like I don't trust them, it's because I don't trust them. We have representatives that are supposed to represent our best interest, and guess what? They don't do it. You get respect by earning respect, and the government needs to earn that respect. They can't keep doing what they're doing. And I'm not just talking about Republicans, because when it comes to health care, the reason we don't have universal health care is because of Republicans, but also some Democrats. We should have universal health care. Every other fucking industrialized country has it. So don't tell me it can't be done. None of those countries are rich as the United States. So I'm saying this to you. Show me that it's worth me putting in a year. Sounds transactional, but that's the way we have to be at this point. We've been getting our ass kicked for decades. taking money from us, making our lives more difficult so rich people can get more money that they don't need, or giving it to lobbyists or healthcare or pharmaceutical. I'm willing to talk about a year to give up to this country, but we're going to have to see some dramatic changes first. I'm not just handing it to you, hoping against hope that you'll do the right thing, meaning the government, because they haven't done it to this point. Theory, it's a good idea, but you've got to trust the other party when you're cutting a deal. Let's talk about trickle down. They told us how good it would be for us, and they fucked us. When people keep fucking you, you don't trust them. You need them to put up or shut up. And then at that point, maybe we can do it. Maybe. This fucking country's broken. Putting somebody in service for a year, doing whatever, that's not the fix. We have to fix the people in this country. I get that. But we got to fix this fucking government first. These people in this country are broken and upset and mad, but they have good reason to, because the government's been fucking them over for decades. I'll agree with you that maybe we could put a situation where everybody does a year of service. I'll make a caveat to that. Everybody. Not just poor people, not just middle-class people, whether you're a billionaire's kid or a homeless person's kid, everybody does it. And if everybody can't do it or everybody doesn't do it, then it doesn't work. But you got to give us something first. You got to give us a reason to invest more because we pay taxes and we put in the time to do these things and we get jack in return. I've done a lot of negotiations in my life, and if I've got somebody I don't trust, I make them put the money up first, and then we'll deal with it. But if I can't trust them, I'm not going to say, well, I'll just do it. That's a democratic thing. Okay, we'll vote for the CR, but you got to promise to do a vote and a negotiation on the ACA subsidies. What happened there? We got fucked again. I'm tired of getting fucked. I'm not going to get fucked. I'll give you something if you give me something first because I can't trust you. All right. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's really my issue. If you want to vote on it as, yeah, we should do a year. We're nowhere close to that. We got a lot of things to fix before we can even talk about that. All right. He goes on to say, hi, Mike. Thank you for your talk about Botox Barbie. Everything you said is accurate. However, there is always that fucking however. Behind that masked, frozen look, she is telling herself, these fucking fools can say all they want and don't care if I get fired. And don't care if I get fired. I've already made millions. Motherfuckers, somebody fire me so I can crawl away quietly while everybody jokes about me and have millions to spend. That is millions in 10 months. Fire me, you fools. Fire me, she says, for reference. Please watch Rachel Maddow and Jen Psaki on CBS, or actually MS Now, for accurate money amount. Yeah, buddy, she ain't no fool. I beg to differ with you. She's a dumb motherfucker. And when you saw her in that situation where she was being questioned, she proved she's a dumb motherfucker. See, this is the one thing I have a trouble with when somebody says, well, they just gamed the system and they beat us and they're just going to walk away with millions and they're going to be fine. A couple of things you have to consider that you're not considering. First of all, for these people, these narcissistic people, their ego is probably more important than their money. If you can embarrass them, if you can kick them out, it's going to hurt them mentally. Now, that's not a big deal in the big scheme of things, but you have to understand something. Something that Will has always said, I've said, other people have said, there is going to be a reckoning. Kristi Noem has broken some big laws, humanitarian laws. And when this is all over, there will be a reckoning for her, Pete Hegseth, Pam Bondi. All of these people have committed literal crimes. And now the DOJ under the Republican Party, they won't do anything. But when there isn't a Republican DOJ, don't think they aren't going to be going after these people. You can't put people in detention camps. You can't take citizens and veterans and fly them to fucking El Salvador and not expect some accountability. You maybe could expect that with the current DOJ and the Republican Party, but that's not going to last forever. If you think Kristi Noem is going to get away with all the shit she did with just millions of dollars and live a happy life, you're fooling yourself. That's not the way it's going to fucking go down. That's just not the way it's going to happen. You can disagree with me, but I'm convinced that we are going to see a lot of people investigated, indicted, prosecuted, and convicted. And you might say, well, they're Trump buddies, so they are never going to get prosecuted. Really? Were you old enough to be around during the Nixon Watergate situation? Nixon got a pardon. Yeah, I'll grant you that. John Mitchell, his attorney general, went to fucking jail. A number of his advisors and other people in his cabinet went to jail. And what they did wasn't 1/10 of what these motherfuckers did. So if you think she's just going to run off with her boyfriend and have millions of dollars and be happy, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think that's going to be the case. There's a big taste for accountability out here. People want these fuckers taken and brought to justice. I mean, we have to wait to see if that happens, but Kristi Noem is stupid. I mean, she is absolutely ignorant. Pam Bondi, dumb as fuck. No business being an attorney general. Kash Patel, bug-eyed Barney Google with the googly eyes. He's dumb as fuck. Pete Hegseth, what the fuck is, he's an idiot. These people are going to be taken to task when this is all over. I know it seems like it's going to be too long. Maybe it's 2 years, maybe it's 3 years, but eventually they will be taken to task. Elon Musk will be taken to task. All his little pimple-faced fucking Doge buddies, they're going to be taken to task. You have to. If you don't, this will continue. This will happen again. So I disagree that she's going to run away and she's happy to get fired because she's got millions of dollars. That's the least of her problems. Money problems are the least of her problems. And I'm surprised she's not worried about it already. If she thinks Donald Trump is going to go forever and the Republicans are going to have constant control, she's not paying too close attention to the prospects for the midterms. That will be the first step. And what's going to happen when we have the midterms and the Democrats take the House and the Senate, guess what's going to happen? She may not get arrested. She may not get prosecuted. But I tell you what's going to happen in Congress, because Donald Trump will be the president, the Republicans will be out of power. Nothing much will get done. But you know what will get done? What will get done is investigations and hearings and subpoenas and all kinds of shit. You're going to see Kristi Noem, Pete Hegseth, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi all showing up in Congress. And they'll make them show up in Congress because they'll have the power now. And they're going to be questioned. They're going to be embarrassed, and evidence is going to be exposed. I think you're coming up a little short on thinking that Kristi Noem can't wait to get fired so she can have her millions of dollars. Money ain't her problem. Her future is her problem. And she's got a lot of motherfucking problems. This one says, don't know if you have seen anything about this yet. The circus clowns hard at work drinking alcohol and eating Big Macs and fucking shit up, just like you say every day, Mike. Well, I don't think Trump drinks alcohol, but he's doing some kind of drugs. There's one representative that's suggesting that he's taking some very serious Alzheimer's drugs. Costs like $26,000 a month just to keep him propped up and keep him somewhat ambulatory. But you can see Donald Trump's diminishing every day, both mentally and physically. Motherfucker can't even stay awake during a cabinet meeting. You got a guy that's diminishing and then you pump him with drugs. That can't go on very long. Something's going to get him. The drugs won't end up helping, or the drugs will take him out. But that's what's happening right now, and we see it every fucking day. He's in trouble. All right. The last one I have here, this person sent me a couple of memes. The first one says, Trump enraged after the gold paint peels off the FIFA Peace Prize. Do you think this is real news? No, I don't think it's real news. I mean, it could be. Who cares? It's not even a real prize they just made up, but I doubt that's real. Now, this other one, I'm asked if I heard about this and do I think it's real. Says this comes from The Hill, so it comes from a reasonable source. They have their issues too. Russia demands Trump administration providing reasoning for seizure of the oil tanker. Now, I think that could be true. I mean, when you get a fucking president of the United States going full pirate, grabbing a tanker full of oil that's meant for China or Cuba or whatever, and just takes it, there's going to be some question asked. Russia, China, Cuba, every other country, because now he's talking about grabbing yet another one. Yeah, I think there probably is some questions, and I think there's going to be some blowback for Donald Trump for playing pirate. So yeah, I think that's probably real, and I'll look into it and see if we can find out any more about that. All right. Some of the other news stories, the big news stories that happened. House Democrats, the Oversight Committee in the House of Representatives, released a selection of photos from the estate of Jeffrey Epstein on Friday, including some of Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, and former Prince Andrew. Started out with 19 photos they released, and a lot of them were interesting and telling. And then I hear they put out another 50 or so. So we'll be seeing how those all shake out. But there's certainly some photos in there that cause some questions and don't necessarily put Donald Trump in a good light. The dozens of photos initially released by Democratic lawmaker on the House Oversight Committee were a small part. This is the important thing to remember. If they put out 20 to 70 of these things, that ain't nothing, because there's 95,000 pictures in the House Oversight Committee given to them by the Epstein estate. There's a lot of things that the Oversight Committee has. They have bank records. They have a lot of stuff. They're not releasing everything at once. Not sure why. Maybe they're using it for leverage and just reminding Donald Trump with a slow drip, we still got some more shit, bitch. That may be what they're doing. But they were a small part of more than 95,000 pictures they received from the estate of Epstein. Of course, he died New York jail cell in 2019 while awaiting trials on sex trafficking charges. And who gives a fuck if he's dead or whatever? You know, he was a piece of shit, absolute piece of shit. The photos were released without captions or context and include a black and white image of Trump alongside 6 women whose faces were blacked out. Trump said he didn't know anything about this. Yeah, all these came out. And that one black and white picture, that was interesting. It showed Donald Trump standing in the middle of 6 young females. I don't know if they were young women or young girls, but we know that they are redacting pictures and names of the victims or survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. And every one of these girls' face was redacted. So it's conceivable that every one of these girls might have been a victim or survivor of Jeffrey Epstein. And if that is the case, what are the odds Donald Trump not knowing Jeffrey Epstein, not knowing anything about what Jeffrey Epstein did, but he's standing in the middle of 6 victims of Jeffrey Epstein? It's questionable. Are they the victims or are they not? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, because we'll do what the Republicans said do and carry the narrative. Assume the worst for Donald Trump. Donald Trump gets this information. And he goes, yeah, he does what he always does. Yeah, I don't know nothing about that shit. I don't know nothing about that shit. I don't think it's a big deal, which tells you that Donald Trump knows it's a big deal. That's how Donald Trump deals with stuff. He goes opposite. He tries to blow it off, but he knows he's in trouble, especially since he knows there's 95,000 pictures. Now, the White House responded to this by saying, oh, yeah, they're cherry picking and they're just trying to carry the narrative for Donald Trump being part of this. They just cherry pick the photos. Really? There's been a lot of photos of Donald Trump prior to this release. And okay, if you say they're cherry picking, I've got a very easy resolution to this problem of these being cherry picked. How about we just release all 95,000? How would you like that, Donald? We'll just release all 95,000 pictures, let the chips fall where they may, and let people decide what the fuck they think. Donald's nervous because this is getting closer and closer to him. There was another picture. They obviously like making, back in the day with Jeffrey Epstein, they love making fun of Donald Trump. And I enjoy that. There was a picture of a table selling condoms for $4.99, and it had a picture of Trump on the condom, and it says it's huge. So Donald Trump. They had another one too, where they had a pumpkin jack-o'-lantern or something dressed up and had hair on it like Donald Trump, and they called it Donald Trumpkin. It's interesting that these people, anytime you call out Donald Trump or make fun of him, he loses his shit. But these people seem to be doing it all the time. Is it because they want to see him lose his shit? Or does Donald Trump is he so submissive to these people, he just allows them to get away with it? I don't know. These pictures were interesting. There is nothing that was showing anybody committing a crime. It does show that Donald Trump was buddies with Jeffrey Epstein, in spite of the fact that he says he didn't know him at all and wasn't really involved with him. Beg to differ, Donnie. Take a look at the pictures, and who knows what's going to be in the other 95,900 or whatever's left. But Robert Garcia, the ranking member of this oversight committee, did say something interesting. He said, we've gone through 25,000 of the 95,000 pictures. He also said that some of these pictures are deeply disturbing. He didn't go into detail as to why they were deeply disturbing, but he did say they were deeply disturbing. He did suggest that there were some sexual acts going on and there was some nudity. Now, I'm not suggesting that we'll ever see those, but these need to come to light. We need to let the sun shine on all of this stuff. If we want closure for the girls and we want accountability for the people involved, well, we need that. And of course, in these pictures, there were a lot of powerful men. There was Bill Gates. There was Richard Branson from Virgin Air and all that stuff. There was Donald Trump. There was Steve Bannon, Woody. Who am I thinking of? The fucking actor. You know who I'm talking about. And there was one interesting picture, and it was brought to my attention on a TikTok that I was watching. There is a picture of Steve Bannon sitting in front of a desk with Jeffrey Epstein behind the desk, and they're just talking. It seems like a pretty innocuous picture. But if you zoom in on that picture, in the upper right portion of that desk, there's a picture on Jeffrey Epstein's desk. And it looks like a woman, I don't think you can see her face, a woman leaning over to the side on a couch wearing a shirt and no pants. I mean, you can't see anything explicit, but she's wearing a long shirt, no pants, and she's leaned over on the couch, seemingly passed out. This is a picture he decided to fucking frame and put on his desk. there's going to be a lot of things we see in this motherfucking thing, and it's not going to be pretty. And I know Donald Trump knows that he's going to be implicated pretty solidly when all this stuff comes out. Now, there was some more emails put out, not by the Oversight Committee, um, by another group, uh, 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 a watchdog group or something along those lines. An email account belonging to Jeffrey Epstein regularly received alerts from Donald Trump's 2020 campaign. And after Epstein's death was addressed under a shocking new name, newly released records show. And this is what it said. It starts out by saying, "I need you right now, pedophiles." That's October 27th, 2020. Donald Trump said he hadn't talked to Jeffrey Epstein since 2005. But this was an email from Trump's campaign team, signed by Donald Trump and sent to Epstein's email address. And that email address is jeeproject@yahoo.com. The new batch of emails was obtained by Distributed Denial of Secrets, a nonprofit whistleblower group that shared them selectively with news outlets, including Ross Story. They differ from the document of 20,000 pages of files from Epstein's estate released by the House Oversight Committee last month. So these are different emails. And it says, "Pedophiles, I want you to know how important you are to me," reads another email from Trump's campaign to Epstein. This is Trump's campaign writing to email, and God knows who else. Dated October 1, 2020, once again signed off by Donald Trump. And he says, "I'm turning to my strongest supporters, like pedophiles," reads another, dated October 25th, 2020. Now, I don't know the veracity of this particular watchdog group or this um, this I mean, if it's legit, if these are legit, I don't know. But this was something that was sent off to Ross Story and some other news outlets. I would presume they looked into it to verify it. I'm not going to say it's real, but if it is real, why would you put that in a fucking email? How stupid are you? All right, the other big issue that's going on today, um, or for the next couple of weeks anyway, is regarding healthcare. And this is pretty disturbing. Now, as I said, during the government shutdown, Democrats wouldn't sign off on it because they wanted the ACA subsidies extended. And that's why we had the shutdown. So then the Republicans in the Senate said, "Listen, we'll promise that we'll have a vote on the ACA subsidies if you sign off on the CR." And and in typical Democrat fashion, they said, "Okay, sure, we'll trust you." And that's what they did. So the other day is when they had that vote. They had a vote for the ACA subsidies. It was very simple. It was very clean. What it amounted to was extending the ACA subsidies for 3 years. Republicans roundly said no. They said no to the subsidies. So what the Republicans have done there is basically said to not only Democrats, but their own people, "We don't give a fuck if your health care goes up by double, triple, quadruple." And in real terms, it can quadruple. I've heard of people with a health care bill of $500. They just found out it's going to go up to $2,000. How do you fucking afford that? So there's going to be a lot of people that maybe just can't have health care. And that's going to be on the Republicans. I don't understand why they're doing this because it's going to kill them in the election. 57% of the people that use the ACA are in red states. So this is a dumb fucking move. Of course, they put up a healthcare plan that was ridiculous. It won't work. It's typical. Republicans had 15 years to come up with a healthcare plan, and they have yet to come up with anything at all that's legitimate for a healthcare program. I just heard they maybe resubmitted something else recently. We'll talk more about that later. But the fact of the matter is we look at the calendar. By the time you hear this, it will be like the 14th of December. We have to the end of December before the subsidies end. So we basically have a couple of weeks, a little more than a couple of weeks. But what you have to understand is that we have Christmas in the middle of all that. So, in realistic terms, there are 5 legislative days between now and the end of the month. So, in those 5 legislative days, they've got to come up with an answer to extend the ACA subsidies. Now, in my mind, I think they'll come up with something at the last minute to extend the ACA subsidies because it's going to be so devastating. It's going to be horrible for 24 million people. And the Republicans cannot afford that going into the midterms. Now, I might be wrong. The Republicans could say, fuck it, throw caution to the wind and just fry all 24 million people. That could happen. It doesn't make any sense. But for a long time, I have quit worrying about things that were logical and had common sense. I used that in the presidential election with Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Logic and common sense was thrown out the window. So I'm not betting on any fucking common sense or logic at this point. Now, Speaker Mike Johnson unveiled a Republican alternative late Friday, a last-minute sprint as the party refuses to extend the enhanced tax subsidies for those who buy policies through the Affordable Care Act, also called Obamacare, which are expiring at the end of the year. The subsidies will help lower the coverage. Johnson from Louisiana huddled behind closed doors in the morning, as he did days earlier in the week, working to assemble a package for consideration as the House focuses on the final days of its 2025 work on health care. Understand, the Republicans have had 15 fucking years to do it. Now they're huddling in a room trying to piece together something quickly just so they don't have to extend the subsidies. The pressure is on the Republicans, and there are many people in the Republican Party that are feeling that pressure and are pushing the leadership. But the leadership is so complicit or compliant with Donald Trump, they'll do anything he says, even if it means burning down the entire fucking party. House Republicans are tackling the real drivers of healthcare costs to provide affordable care, Johnson said in a statement announcing the package. He said it would be voted on next week. It won't pass. The Republican, you can't possibly tell me that the Republicans have come up with a healthcare package that everybody's going to agree with. It's just not going to happen. And so in the end, we'll get down to the last day, last hour, last day, and we'll see what happens. Do the Republicans just say, fuck it? Or do they cave and extend the ACA for a year and allow people to rest comfortably and they'll work on something over the next year? That seems to makes the most sense. The problem they have is if they do that, they know that the Democrats are going to control the House at the very least and possibly the Senate. I want to get that year extension and then let the Democrats deal with it when it comes out the other side, and we can work on the Democrats in the process. All right. With regards to this healthcare issue, this is how Donald Trump is just out of touch. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. President Donald Trump snapped at a reporter in the Oval Office on Friday after being pressed on what millions of Americans should expect as enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies are set to expire, a change projected to raise premiums on roughly 24 million people. So during an event honoring the 80 U.S. Olympic men's hockey team, the famed Miracle on Ice, I don't even know why he was doing that. That's, what was that? That's 50 years ago, 55 years ago. I have a friend that was on that team. I have a couple of friends on that team. I hope they had enough sense not to go to this motherfucking thing. Anyway, a reporter asked Trump directly, what's your message to those 24 million Americans who will see their insurance premiums go up? How do you think he responded to that? Remember, Donnie doesn't like hard questions, and this could qualify as a hard question. Trump immediately lashed out, accusing the journalist of parroting Democratic talking points. This is what he said. You make it sound so bad. You're obviously a sycophant for Democrats. You obviously a provider of bad news for Republicans. The reporter vigorously shook his head in disagreement as the exchange played out in the Oval Office. So 24 million people are going to go without health care. And Donald Trump is complaining that this reporter, you make it sound so bad. Well, Donald Trump, what fucking parallel universe do you live in where 24 million people either can't afford or are going to go without health care? Is that not bad? That's not bad to you? Maybe you don't give a fuck, but a lot of people are going to suffer. A lot of people are going to get sick. And guess what? People are going to die. I know that doesn't matter to Donald Trump. He killed 1 million people during COVID, so it doesn't really matter. But Donald Trump is so out of touch and so unable to speak intelligently on something. He says something that stupid. Trump then launched into a winding defense of his long promised plan to replace ACA. Says, we want the money not to be paid at all to insurance companies. And Trump said, while insisting Obamacare is horrible health insurance because it's too expensive. Yeah, but what you're doing is making it even more expensive. Donnie, you've been promising some health care that was going to be better than any other, cheaper than every other, and is going to involve everybody. You've been telling us 2 weeks for 10 years on this, bitch. So fuck you. The Republicans won't come up with a health care plan because they don't want a health care plan. They want to make everything as expensive as possible. So they're benefactors, big pharma, the insurance lobby, that they can make their money. But one of the things I don't think Donald Trump, the Republicans are considering, if you take somebody's health care and they're paying $500 a month and there are some subsidies from the government, this is all going to the insurance companies, right? Well, if you raise people's insurance by 400% from $500 to $2,000, guess what? People are going to stop buying health care. As much as they don't want to go without health care, they have no fucking choice because they can't afford it. That's the fucking deal here. So the insurance companies are going to take a hit on this too. It'll be interesting to see if they step in and put some pressure on Donald Trump. I'm not convinced that they aren't going to extend the subsidies because too many people lose money in the Republican Party and in the insurance companies. I know they don't give a fuck if people die, but there's going to be money lost and it's going to cause problems. And I sense somebody will get to Donald Trump and say, hey, dumb fuck, you need to stop this and we need to extend it at least a year so we can push the goalposts back as Donald Trump is always so want to do. All right. We're getting down to the later stages here. U.S. Rep. Jasmine Crockett, Democrat from Texas, may have just entered the Democratic primary for the U.S. Senate on Monday, but according to a new poll, she's already the favorite to win. When the Supreme Court said that they could gerrymander the state in Texas, guess what happened? Jasmine Crockett lost her district. She's got no place to run in her district, so she's out of a job. Well, she's a pretty valuable person in the House of Representatives. People like her because she's strong and tough and speaks out. This is the kind of person the Democrats need in order to change the perception that they are weak. We need people that are strong. So she said, okay, hey, I'm going to run for the Senate. Now, I have no problem with her running for the Senate. I think she could beat John Cornyn or Ken Paxton, whoever the Republican nominee has to be. They're both idiots. They're both criminals. And people are getting sick of the Republican Party, especially in Texas, with how badly things are going there. The problem is she's going to have to enter a primary. And the person she's going to have to run against is State Rep James Tallarico, a Democrat from Round Rock. Now, this James Tallarico is a young guy, mid-30s. He's very religious, but people love this guy. I like the guy. I think he's a great guy. I think that he would be a great senator, but he's young. He's only a state legislator. So for him to come in and take over his Senate the next day after he gets elected and installed, that might be tough. And I hate to see this because we've got two very valuable candidates in one race, and one of them is going to lose. And that's problematic. Um, the Barbara Jordan Public Policy Research and Survey Center at Texas Southern University polled 1,600 likely Texas Democratic primary voters between December 9th and December 11th, releasing the results on Friday morning. Among those responses, 51% of respondents indicated support for Jasmine Crockett, while 43% showed support for State Rep. James Tallarico. So there's a 7% split, and she just entered the race. This isn't surprising. I mean, she's pretty well known, a lot of name recognition. People love this woman because she is tough and she is smart and she's an attractive lady. She's got the whole package. Um, and when I say she's attractive, I'm not trying to diminish it, that it's down to looks, but we got dumb fucks in this country. The better you look seems to get more votes with some dumb fucks. So I don't know what's going to happen in this primary. I hope whoever wins the primary can beat John Cornyn or Ken Paxton, and I believe they can. And to get a Democratic senator in Texas would be awesome. Maybe Tallarico drops out and runs for governor against Greg Abbott, that piece of shit. I don't know what's going to happen there. I don't like when we have two strong candidates from the Democratic Party running against each other, basically canceling one or the other out. All right. Getting down toward the end, President Donald Trump has already discussed the idea of preemptively pardoning key aides and officials who could face criminal investigation under future Democratic administrations, according to a new report is Zetio. I think that's Mehdi Hassan. And he could do that. I'd be surprised if he did. What's he getting for it? He's very transactional. If you want a pardon, motherfucker, it's going to cost you. We know he's selling pardons. But theoretically, and that would cause some problems, say a Pam Bondi, say a Pete Hegseth, he can do a preemptive pardon. That looks kind of weird. So when they leave, they couldn't be tried for their crimes, and that would be a problem with people not being held accountable. Donald Trump's had opportunities to pardon some people, and unless there's money involved, I don't see him doing it. He could, and to be honest with you, even if they are pardoned, all that means is they have to testify. They can't ask for the fifth, take the fifth on anything. They have to answer everything. And if nothing else, you can destroy everything about them, their careers, their lives, whatever. Maybe they don't go to jail, but they certainly aren't working again either. Now, sources with knowledge of the discussion say the conversations have been sporadic and preliminary and have included Trump, his senior aides, federal appointees, and Republicans close to the White House. Any sweeping preemptive pardon, the sources told Zetio, would likely occur shortly before the inauguration of a Democratic president-elect, though it's unclear how long the potential presidential list might run. Among the names reportedly under consideration, Stephen Miller, Trump's policy architect, widely associated with the administration. Most controversial, and critics argue, open a gratuitously lawless initiatives. Another MAGA administration figure discussed in the reporting is Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, currently under scrutiny for a possible war crime related to a series of U.S. military boat strikes. Yeah, they could all be pardoned at the last minute before the inauguration. But that's assuming Donald Trump survives that long. And you'll say, well, J.D. Vance could do it. Yeah, I don't know if he would. Because if Donald Trump is gone, the Republicans are going to have to try to make themselves more normal, make themselves more palatable. And if they're going to do that, they're not going to get that impression by letting go fucking criminals that are now pariahs, much like their Lord and Savior, Donald Trump. This is something I wouldn't worry about 3 years down the line. Donald Trump, I don't even think will be around at that point. The whole climate of the Republican Party in this country will be dramatically different. That's just one of those things where people say, oh my God, this could happen. We got to be upset. We got bigger issues to deal with. Let's focus on them and not worry about who's going to get pardoned and who's not going to get pardoned. Because I guarantee you, these motherfuckers, Donald Trump and his people, are going to want money in order to extend a pardon to anybody. And these people don't have that much money at this point. All right. We are going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.